Okay, today's Ask Me Anything is a question that is about nodal returns. The question is nodal returns. I have my north node in Pisces. I don't understand what it means. So those are two different questions. Let's talk about it. They're both excellent questions. A of all, a nodal return is when the nodes, like the north node comes back to the place it was when you were born, and the south node comes back to the place it was when you were born. The nodes are just points in space. They are always 180 degrees away from each other. So it is the hungry head of the dragon is the north node, we say. That's what the ancients said. And the south node is the tail of the dragon. And they are places where eclipses happen when there's a new moon or a full moon that is within about, 16 degrees of the node, of that point in space, there will be an eclipse. So the nodes are points in space where eclipses occur when a new moon or a full moon happens around them. Eclipses happen every 6 months, and the nodes are very significant in your chart because of the nature of eclipses. Eclipses are catalytic times. They are catastrophic times. They signal times where things begin and they end. They are times of great change and where the energy is very disrupted, right? Think of the light going out and the light coming back on. So the nodes represent these places of great change, and the north node in our chart represents a place of great hunger and desire. The south node in our chart represents a place where we are more prone to be giving something away, where we are less attached, where we are able to let go, or where we experience a lot of loss. And in the beginning of our life, it can be a lot of loss. And then as we grow into ourselves and our chart and life, it can be a place of great acceptance. That's more of a traditional type of point of view. Modern astrology relates the north node, I believe, I'm not a modern astrologer, but I believe they relate the north node to where we're going in this lifetime and the south node to what we've overdone in this lifetime. That's what I used to believe when I did modern astrology. And if that's works for you, great. I would just like you to add on this other layer of information and a different way to see the nodes, which is wherever the north node is in your chart is where you are going to be rapacious. It is where you're going to be ravenous. It is where you are going to be never satisfied. It is a hunger that is relentless. Now, the north node, and I think also the south node, I'm going to make a case for the south node in a second, but in a very different way. When the north node is like in the first house, the house of self, your rising sign, it symbolizes somebody who's got a big appetite for life, for being known, for success, for something, right? There is a desire to do something. The hungry head of the dragon is always with you. So a lot of people that are famous do have that signature. Not everybody, but when I see it, whether or not that person is like a celebrity doesn't really matter. There's a desire to be known because it's the first house of self. And then there are also different astrologies and astrologers that will say, like, if you have the north node in a very close or like exact, so within the same degree-ish, give or take a degree or two, of a trine with the ascendant, that's also like a big mark of desire. And I would say like a sextile is a little less powerful. A square's pretty powerful. And then opposition means that you've got the south node on your ascendant. So remember, they're two sides of one thing. So the south node, like say you have the south node in the first house, that always denotes someone who's really willing to be easy breezy, or is just really easy breezy, or really just like lets things go, lets things roll off their back, or seemingly does, right? Like there's always something that we're trying to hold on to. But there's this thing with the south node, like if you have the south node around a certain planet, like if you have sun south node or a south node in your first house, there's going to be this vibe of like, yeah, man, it's totally cool. Like, I'm good. I don't need it. You can have it. Because there's this desire to be releasing everything. Like, I don't want to attain too much stuff. It's thought of as kind of a spiritual signature because there's a non-attachment type of vibe that is connected, or we could connect with the South Node. But the nodes, south or north, are still connected to eclipses, which are volatile, really like activating phenomenon and astrological events. So if the South Node is by someone's sun or moon or in the first house or 10th house or somewhere really prominent in the chart, it's still going to bring, and then it also, anyways, it means that the North Node is connected to it as well. So depending on what I just said, where yours is, there's still this energy that's attached. So the North Node in the first house or in the 10th house, let's say, is really activating in terms of like wanting to amass a lot of fill in the blank, or wanting to really be known, or being very desirous of something that is connected to having many experiences. Maybe that's being known by a lot of people, or just being in like wild experiences. Like you just like things just happen to you that are kind of like, what is that? Now, that's going to be like very North Node. South Node, if you have South Node somewhere really prominent, there's still going to be this very activating force, but your approach to it, again, if it's in the first house or 10th house or by your sun or another like major planet in your chart, the South Node is going to give you more of like a, yeah, this crazy thing happened. I don't know, whatever. It's cool. It's not a big deal. You know, like I can let it go kind of thing. But if the North or South Node are in prominent places in your chart, again, especially first house or 10th house, or connected by trine or sextile or square to your ascendant, especially if it's exactly conjunct to your ascendant and therefore descendant, then, or midheaven, or, you know, anything to do with like these major points in your chart, or especially your sun, your moon, I would say like any of the personal planets, Venus, Mercury, Mars, Saturn. The outer planets are still very significant, but it's a little less personal. The quicker moving planets are always going to be like a, whoa, you've got Venus conjunct the South Node. Like that's huge. That's a startling mark for me. So there's that thing. It's like, if the South Node is by a planet, then I'm going to really want to investigate what the nature of that planet is. And then the meaning of the South Node being about letting go, releasing, or if it's by the North Node, I'm going to want to investigate what that planet is, what it does, and this desire that can never be fulfilled and never be satiated. If you don't have anything near the North or South Node, great, fine. That's not an issue. But you want to know what house in your chart it occupies. And that will tell you everything. Like, yes, the sign it's in is important to some degree, but really we want to know what house is your North Node in, because that's where you're going to be ferocious. What house is your South Node in? That's where you might experience a loss, but that's also where you can experience a great amount of peace once you do the work of like coming to terms with the fact that everything comes and everything goes in life. Like we don't control anything. The South Node teaches us how to like release and relinquish our desire to control, at least momentarily. And the South Node shows us where we're going to want to give a lot, what we're going to want to release a lot of. So say if you have the South Node in the 11th house, you're going to want to give a lot to the group. You're going to want to put out a lot to the audience. You're going to want to give a lot to your friends. You're going to want to be a channel of support in some way, shape, or form for the collectives that you're a part of. If you have the North Node in the 11th house, you're going to want to have a lot of friends. You're going to want to do a lot of things with the group. You're going to want to be mayor of Mayortown, possibly, depending on the rest of your chart. But there's this big desire for friendship, and there's a big desire for group work, and there's a big desire for collective action, and probably also activism, or could be activism. So if you have the North Node in Pisces, it means that it's in the part of your chart that contains Pisces. And that's what I really want you to focus on. The North Node in Pisces can have a huge hunger for escapism and fantasy, and also just a massive creative capacity. Pisces is a very creative, very compassionate sign, or a sign that is about creativity and compassion and oneness. So there's a desire to escape sometimes, but also a desire to experience oneness, a desire to demonstrate compassion, and a desire to connect to many people and many things and many experiences. And Pisces wants to experience everything. So there might be a big desire to experience all of life all the time, all around you, and just like revel around, roll around in all of it, to be part of everything. It's not very discerning. So there's a big desire to like have a wide array of experiences. When you have a nodal return, it means the nodes have come back to where they were when you were born, which means that there are eclipses in the signs that they were happening in around the time that you were born. If you were born during an eclipse, that's a whole other thing. I have a video on that. But we experience a nodal return about once every 19 years. So it's a marker of time. And it's saying, okay, the parts of your chart that are home to your north and south node are getting reactivated again. And so this is an important moment for you because it will wake up the part of you that's super hungry for something. And it will also teach you something really important about what you're here to heal. That's the south node. That's what we're here to heal. The north node is what we're here to understand about our hunger and our desires that, again, will never be satiated. What do we do with desires that are never satiated? Well, one of the things we do is we don't let them have the last word because they will have us forever on a hamster wheel. But we do allow them to propel us into our creativity. We do allow our desires to help to motivate us towards something, but we have to balance that with being in deep acceptance of what is, and also knowing when we're full. Like, I'm good. I know I could keep eating this cake, but it'll also pain me. And so I'm going to just practice satiation, even if I don't necessarily feel like that. Because if I never satiated, then I'm never going to enjoy what I have. If we stay with the north node too much, we're always just going to be forever wanting more. If we only stay with the south node, we're not going to be spurred into action to go do the great things that we're here to do. So it's about the balance of both the north and south node in our chart.